The iron door slammed shut behind Maya with a finality that echoed through her bones. She pressed her palms against the cold stone wall of the tower room, fighting the tremor in her hands as the sounds of celebration drifted up from the pack grounds below. Laughter, music, the joyful howls of wolves finding their fated mates during the annual mating ceremony. She wasn't allowed to attend. She never had been. "You understand why this is necessary," Beta Thomas had said, as he'd escorted her up the winding stairs an hour ago, his voice carefully neutral. "With your condition. It's safer for everyone if you remain here until the ceremony concludes." Condition. As if she were diseased. As if the thing that made her different, the thing she'd hidden for 23 years, made her dangerous. Maya moved to the narrow window and looked down at the transformed pack grounds. White silk banners rippled in the evening breeze, tables laden with food stretched across the lawn. And there, in the center of it all, unmated wolves circled each other in the ancient dance, searching for the pull of recognition, the electric snap of a destined bond. She'd dreamed of this night since she was a child. Every she-wolf did. But Maya had learned long ago that dreams were luxuries she couldn't afford. A sharp knock made her spin from the window. "I said I didn't need dinner," she called out, expecting one of the Omega servants sent to ensure she didn't starve during her imprisonment. "Open the door, Maya." Her father's voice, tight with something that sounded like fear. She crossed the small space and lifted the heavy beam, pulling the door inward. Alpha Marcus stood in the dim corridor, and behind him, Maya's stomach dropped, stood 3 members of the Council of Elders, their ceremonial robes marking this as official pack business. "Father?" Her voice came out smaller than she intended. "I'm sorry." He wouldn't meet her eyes. "They know." The world tilted. "What?" Elder Miriam pushed past Marcus into the room, her lined face hard as granite. "Don't play ignorant, girl. We've known something was wrong with you for months. The way you disappear during the full moon. The strange scent that clings to you afterward. The reports from Border Patrol of an unidentified wolf in the western woods." Maya's heart hammered against her ribs. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Liar." Elder Thomas, not the beta but his grandfather, stepped forward, his hand resting on the silver blade at his hip. "We found evidence. White fur caught on the fence near the old Richardson property, the same pure white as your mother's wolf before she died." "My mother was a gray wolf," Maya whispered, but the denial sounded hollow even to her own ears. "Your mother was many things we didn't discover until it was too late." Elder Miriam's voice cut like glass. "Including a carrier of the lunar gift, a bloodline so rare and so dangerous that most packs execute carriers on sight rather than risk the chaos they bring." The word execute hung in the air between them like a blade. Maya's father finally looked at her, and the resignation in his eyes was worse than hatred would have been. "Show them," he said quietly. "Show them your wolf, Maya. If you refuse, they'll assume the worst and the sentence will be immediate." "And if I show them?" Her voice shook. "Then we determine if you're a threat that needs to be eliminated or merely contained." Merely contained. As if life in a cage were mercy. She wanted to refuse, wanted to fight. But fighting would only confirm their fears. Maya closed her eyes and reached for the part of herself she'd kept locked away since the day her wolf first emerged 3 years ago, the day she'd understood why her mother had warned her with her dying breath to hide, to never let them see, to pretend she was ordinary even though her wolf was anything but. The shift rippled through her in a wave of heat and light. Bones reformed, fur erupted across her skin, and when she opened her eyes again, she stood on 4 legs instead of 2, looking up at the elders through the eyes of her wolf. The room went silent. Then Elder Miriam laughed, a sharp, bitter sound. "Stars above. She really is one of them. Look at her. Pure white from nose to tail. And the eyes." She stepped closer, peering down at Maya with something between fascination and revulsion. Silver with gold flecks. The old texts describe it exactly. This is a lunar wolf. What does that mean? Marcus's voice cracked. What is she? A weapon, Elder Thomas said flatly. Or a curse, depending on your perspective. Lunar wolves are born once in a generation, if that. They're said to be blessed by the moon goddess herself, stronger than any alpha, faster than any beta, with the ability to heal mortal wounds and… He paused, his expression darkening. To create mate bonds where none naturally exist. Maya felt her wolf recoil at the accusation in his tone, but she held perfectly still, knowing that any aggressive movement would seal her fate. The old packs killed them, Elder Miriam continued, circling Maya like a predator studying prey. They believed lunar wolves disrupted the natural order, that their presence threw packs into chaos as wolves fought for their attention, drawn by power rather than true mate bonds. The last known lunar wolf was executed in the Silver Creek Pack 70 years ago. But Maya's been living among us for 23 years, Marcus protested. She's never disrupted anything. She's barely even shifted. If she were truly dangerous… She's been hiding, Elder Thomas interrupted. And now that she's matured, now that her wolf has fully emerged, every unmated wolf within 100 miles will be drawn to her during the full moon. They won't be able to help themselves. It's not a conscious choice. It's compulsion. Lunar wolves don't find mates. They collect them. They drive wolves mad with need. Maya shifted back to human form, her clothes reforming as the magic receded, another gift of her particular bloodline. She stood naked in her fear before them, though her body remained clothed. I haven't collected anyone, she said, voice hoarse. I've stayed away from the pack during full moons precisely to avoid that. I've done everything I could to protect yourself, Elder Miriam finished coldly. Not the pack. If you'd truly wanted to protect us, you would have left years ago or submitted yourself for judgment before your power fully manifested. My mother told me to hide. She said if I revealed what I was, they'd kill me without trial. Your mother was right. Elder Thomas's hand tightened on his blade. And perhaps we should have acted sooner. But the question now is what to do with you. The mating ceremony is happening as we speak. Every unmated wolf in the territory is down there, their senses heightened, their wolves close to the surface. If your scent reaches them, if they sense what you are, they'll storm this tower. We'll have a bloodbath on our hands as they fight to claim you. Then let me leave. Maya heard the desperation in her own voice but didn't care. I'll go now, tonight. I'll cross the border and never come back. You'll never have to. You think it's that simple? Elder Miriam's laugh was cruel. You think your presence hasn't already been noted? The Alpha King himself is attending tonight's ceremony. Do you know what will happen if Alexander discovers we've been harboring a lunar wolf and tried to hide her from him? The blood drained from Maya's face. The Alpha King. She'd heard stories of Alexander Volkov her entire life, the most powerful alpha in the Northern Territories, ruler of the 7 allied packs, a male so dominant that even other alphas submitted to his authority. He'd come to observe the mating ceremony as a gesture of goodwill to their pack, honoring a treaty signed decades ago. He'll see it as a threat, Marcus whispered, finally understanding. He'll think we were hiding her to use against him. Exactly. Elder Thomas moved toward the door. Which is why we're going to present her to him ourselves. We'll explain that we only just discovered what she was, that we had no intention of concealing her from his authority. If we're fortunate, he'll take her into his own custody, and she'll become his problem instead of ours. And if we're not fortunate? Maya's father asked, though his expression said he already knew the answer. Then he'll execute her as a threat to pack stability, and we'll be required to witness it as proof of our loyalty. They were going to drag her downstairs and hand her over to the most dangerous male in the territory like a sacrifice. Maya's wolf snarled inside her chest, desperate and trapped. She could fight. Her lunar wolf was strong enough to take all three elders and probably her father too, but that would only prove them right. That would make her the monster they feared. "There has to be another way," she said, hating the pleading note in her voice. "Please, I've never hurt anyone. I've been a good daughter, a good pack member. You've been a ticking time bomb." Elder Miriam gripped Maya's arm hard enough to bruise. "Now walk. And if you try to run, we'll hunt you down and your death will be far less merciful than what the Alpha King might offer." They marched her down the tower stairs with Elder Thomas in front, Miriam's hand still locked around her arm, and her father following behind in miserable silence. With each step, the sounds of the mating ceremony grew louder, music and laughter and the howls of successful bond formations. Maya tried to make herself small, tried to pull her wolf's energy inward the way she'd practiced for years, but terror made her control slip. She felt her power leaking out like light through cracks in a dam, and she saw the moment it reached the wolves below. Heads turned, conversations stopped. Males froze mid-dance, their nostrils flaring as they caught her scent on the wind. "Oh gods," Marcus breathed. "They can sense her." It started as a murmur, confused questions, startled exclamations. Then the first wolf shifted, a young male from the warrior class whose eyes locked onto Maya with an intensity that made her skin crawl. He started toward the tower entrance, then another shifted, and another. "Get her to the Alpha King," Elder Thomas barked. "Now, before this turns into a riot." They shoved her forward into the crowd, and Maya stumbled, catching herself against a table laden with untouched food. All around her, males were turning, their eyes glazing with the compulsion Elder Thomas had described. Not desire exactly, something more primal than that. Recognition, need, the overwhelming drive to claim, to possess, to bond with the source of power their wolves sensed. A hand grabbed her wrist. She yanked free and kept moving, following the elders as they carved a path through the increasingly agitated crowd. Someone caught her hair. She felt it tear free as she pulled away. Another hand grasped her shoulder and she drove her elbow back, hearing a satisfying grunt of pain. "There!" Elder Miriam pointed toward a raised platform where pack leadership traditionally sat during ceremonies. And there, standing like a dark monument among the chaos, was Alexander Volkov. Maya had never seen him before, but there was no mistaking who he was. Power radiated from him like heat from a forge. He stood well over 6 feet tall, with broad shoulders and the kind of presence that made everyone around him seem smaller by comparison. Dark hair fell to his collar. His face could have been carved from stone, all sharp angles and harsh planes. And his eyes. Even from 20 feet away, Maya could see they were amber, burning with an intensity that made her wolf whimper in her chest. He was staring directly at her. "Alpha King!" Elder Miriam dragged Maya forward, forcing her to her knees before the platform. "Forgive the interruption, but we have a matter of urgent importance that requires your judgment." Alexander's gaze never left Maya's face. He tilted his head slightly, nostrils flaring. Around them, the crowd was growing more frenzied. At least a dozen males had shifted now, circling the platform with hackles raised, growling at each other in warning. "What is this?" Alexander's voice was deep, carrying easily over the noise, the kind of voice that expected immediate obedience. "This is Maya, daughter of our Alpha." Elder Thomas stepped forward, his tone apologetic but firm. "We've only just discovered that she carries a very rare and very dangerous bloodline. She's a lunar wolf, Your Majesty. Her presence is causing the reaction you see around us. Males of our pack are being compelled by her power, unable to control themselves in her vicinity." Alexander descended the platform steps with liquid grace. The crowd parted before him automatically, even the shifted wolves backing away from the sheer dominance he projected. He stopped directly in front of Maya, forcing her to crane her neck to meet his eyes. "Stand up," he said quietly. Maya rose on shaking legs, acutely aware of how small she was compared to him, how vulnerable. His scent washed over her, pine and smoke and something wild that made her wolf press against her skin, desperate to emerge. "You've been hiding what you are," he said. Not a question. "Yes. No point in lying. Since my wolf first emerged 3 years ago." "Why?" "Because my mother told me they'd kill me if they knew. And she was right." Maya gestured to the elders flanking her. "They brought me here so you could do exactly that." Something flickered in Alexander's expression, too fast for her to read. He turned to Elder Miriam. "You want me to execute her?" "We want you to make the decision our pack cannot," the elder said carefully. "Lunar wolves are inherently destabilizing. Their presence creates conflict and chaos. But we acknowledge this is beyond our authority to judge. As Alpha King, the choice is yours." "I see." Alexander looked back at Maya, his gaze traveling slowly from her face down her body and back up in a way that should have felt invasive, but instead felt like assessment. "How many males have you bonded with?" "None," Maya said immediately. "How many have you compelled to your service?" "None. I swear it. I've stayed away from the pack during every full moon. I've never intentionally used my power to influence anyone. And yet, look around you." He gestured to the circle of shifted wolves, their eyes fixed on Maya with single-minded intensity. "You're using it right now. These males would kill each other for a chance to claim you. Some of them probably will before this night is over." "I'm not trying to—" Maya's voice broke. "I don't want this. Any of this. I just want to be left alone." "That's not an option." Alexander moved closer, invading her space until she had to tip her head back to maintain eye contact. "You're not a normal wolf, Maya. You never will be. And pretending otherwise has only delayed the inevitable confrontation." "Then kill me," she whispered. "If that's the only option, just do it quickly." For a long moment he said nothing. Then, so quietly that only she could hear, he murmured, "Is that really what you want? To die without ever knowing what you could become?" Before Maya could answer, one of the circling males lunged forward with a snarl. He was massive in wolf form, his brown coat bristling with aggression as he charged toward Maya. Alexander moved. One moment he was standing beside her. The next he'd shifted, faster than any wolf Maya had ever seen, into a form that made every other wolf present look like a puppy by comparison. His wolf was pure black, except for a white blaze across his chest, and when he slammed into the attacking wolf, the sound of impact echoed across the grounds like thunder. The brown wolf went down hard, and Alexander stood over him with teeth bared in unmistakable dominance. The message was clear: touch her and die. The brown wolf submitted immediately, throat exposed, whimpering apology. But the others were still circling, still driven by the compulsion they couldn't control. Alexander shifted back to human form, his clothes reforming just as Maya's had, a privilege of the most powerful alphas. "Anyone else?" he asked, his voice carrying that dangerous edge of a male on the verge of violence. No one moved. "Good." Alexander turned back to the elders. "I'll take custody of the lunar wolf. She'll come with me to the capital where I can ensure she receives proper training in controlling her abilities." "Your Majesty," Elder Thomas said hesitantly, "are you certain that's wise? Keeping her close to your own pack, to unmated wolves who might—" "Are you questioning my judgment?" The temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. "No, Alpha King. Of course not." "Then the matter is settled." Alexander gripped Maya's arm, not cruelly, but with unbreakable firmness. "She leaves with me tonight. Gather whatever belongings she needs and bring them to my vehicle within the hour." Maya's father finally spoke. "Will we be allowed to see her? To know she's safe?" Alexander's expression softened almost imperceptibly. If she wishes to maintain contact with you, I won't prevent it. But understand that she's now under my protection and my authority. The rules of your pack no longer apply to her. He started to lead Maya away, but she dug her heels in, suddenly terrified of leaving the only home she'd ever known, even if that home had just tried to hand her over for execution. Wait, I don't even know you. You're asking me to leave my entire life behind and just trust that. I'm not asking. Alexander stopped, turning to face her fully. I'm telling you what's going to happen. You can walk to my car willingly, or I can carry you. Those are your options. You can't just kidnap me. I'm the Alpha King. I can do whatever I deem necessary to maintain stability in my territory. And a lunar wolf running loose with no training is a threat to that stability. His grip gentled slightly. But for what it's worth, I have no intention of harming you, Maya. Quite the opposite. Then what do you intend? His eyes held hers, and for a moment she thought she saw something almost like hunger in their amber depths. To see if the old stories about lunar wolves are true. To discover if you're really capable of everything the legends claim. And he paused, a slight smile curving his mouth. To ensure that when you finally do bond with a mate, it's a choice you make freely rather than something forced on you by wolves too weak to resist compulsion. I don't want a mate, Maya said, but her voice wavered. Everyone says that until they find the right one. Alexander resumed walking, pulling her with him through the crowd that parted like water before them. Come on. We have a long drive ahead of us, and I'd prefer to be out of your pack's territory before the full moon rises, and every male within 50 miles completely loses his mind. Maya let herself be led because fighting seemed pointless and because, though she'd never admit it, there was something almost reassuring about the certainty in his voice, the way he moved through the world as if challenge were impossible. As if he could actually protect her from the chaos her existence created. They reached a sleek black SUV parked beyond the main grounds. Alexander opened the back door and gestured for her to get in. She climbed inside, her heart still hammering, and he slid in beside her. Drive, he told the male in the front seat, another massive wolf who looked like he could snap bones with his bare hands. The vehicle pulled away from the pack grounds, leaving behind the celebration that had turned into chaos because of her. Maya watched through the window as her father appeared at the tower entrance, a small bag in his hands. Her belongings, she realized. Too late to retrieve them now. He'll bring them to you, Alexander said, following her gaze. I'll send someone to collect whatever you need once we arrive at the capital. Just like that. You're not worried I might try to escape? That I might use my power on your wolves the same way I supposedly did to my pack? You didn't use your power on your pack. You've been actively suppressing it for years. He shifted in his seat to face her more fully. I could sense it the moment I saw you. All that strength bottled up so tightly you're practically vibrating with the effort of containing it. It must be exhausting. You have no idea, Maya whispered. Actually, I do. Alexander reached out slowly, giving her time to pull away, and touched a strand of her dark hair. I know what it's like to be different. To have power that frightens people. To spend your whole life walking the line between using enough strength to survive and using so much that everyone sees you as a threat. You're the Alpha King. Everyone already sees you as a threat. Exactly. Which is why I stopped trying to be anything else. His hand dropped away from her hair. You've been trying to be ordinary, Maya. But you're not. You never were. And the sooner you accept that, the sooner we can figure out what you're actually capable of. The elders said lunar wolves create false mate bonds, that we drive wolves mad, that we're... The elders are terrified old fools repeating stories they don't understand. Alexander's voice was firm. Yes, lunar wolves are powerful. Yes, unmated males are drawn to you. But that doesn't make you evil or dangerous. It makes you rare, Valuable. Valuable how? Maya asked suspiciously. In ways I'm still determining. He smiled slightly. But I promise you this. Whatever happens, you won't be locked in a tower again. You won't be hidden away like something shameful. If you're going to be a lunar wolf, you're going to be one with your head held high. The conviction in his words stirred something in Maya's chest. Hope, maybe, or the first fragile beginning of trust. She didn't know this male, didn't know if she could believe his promises, but he'd stood between her and an attacking wolf without hesitation, had claimed her as his responsibility when he could have just as easily ordered her execution. Why? She asked quietly. Why protect me? What do you get out of this? Alexander was silent for a long moment, his gaze distant. When he finally spoke, his voice was low. I get to see what a lunar wolf becomes when she's not afraid. When she's not hiding. When she has someone powerful enough to stand beside her rather than trying to control her. He looked back at her, and the intensity in his eyes made her breath catch. And maybe, if the moon goddess is kind, I get to be the male worthy of claiming you when you finally stop running from what you are. Maya's heart stuttered. You want to be my mate? I want you to have a choice, he corrected. But yes, when I saw you standing there, terrified but brave, refusing to bow even when they had you on your knees, something inside me recognized you. My wolf knew before I did. That's just the compulsion, Maya protested weakly. The draw all males feel toward lunar wolves. It's not real. Isn't it? Alexander leaned closer, his scent wrapping around her. Tell me, Maya, what does your wolf say when you look at me? She wanted to lie, wanted to deny the pull she'd felt from the first moment their eyes met. But her wolf was surging inside her, desperate and yearning, whispering mine with a certainty that terrified her. I don't know you, she said instead. No, but you will. He settled back in his seat, giving her space to breathe. We have time. I'm not going to force a bond or demand anything you're not ready to give. But I am going to show you that being a lunar wolf doesn't have to mean being alone. They drove in silence for a while, the city lights fading behind them as they headed toward territory Maya had never seen. She should have been terrified, should have been planning escape, but instead she felt something she hadn't experienced in years. Safe. 3 days later, Maya stood in the center of the Alpha King's training grounds, surrounded by a dozen of his elite warriors. They were testing her, seeing what a lunar wolf could really do when she wasn't holding back. Again, Alexander called from the edge of the circle, and this time, don't pull your punches. Maya shifted, letting her white wolf emerge in a rush of power that made several of the warriors take an involuntary step back. She'd been training non-stop since arriving at the capital, and with each session she felt more in control, more confident. Alexander had been right. Suppressing her abilities had only made them more dangerous. Learning to use them properly was making her stronger. The warriors attacked in coordinated pairs, exactly as they'd practiced. Maya dodged the first, using speed that made her seem to blur between locations. She caught the second by the scruff and threw him 10 feet, hearing his satisfying yelp of surprise. The third and fourth came at her from opposite sides, trying to trap her between them. She called on the power she'd never dared use before, the healing energy that was supposed to make lunar wolves so dangerous. It burst from her in a wave of silver light, and the attacking wolves stumbled, suddenly disoriented. Not hurt, but unable to coordinate their attacks. Excellent, Alexander murmured. Maya shifted back to human form, breathing hard but exhilarated. I didn't hurt them, right? You disrupted their ability to work together temporarily. It'll fade in a few seconds. He stepped into the circle, dismissing the warriors with a gesture. They left, shooting Maya looks that were no longer hungry compulsion, but rather respect. She'd earned their regard through 3 days of holding her own against trained killers. "You're a quick study," Alexander said once they were alone. "I'm motivated." Maya wiped sweat from her forehead. "Every session proves I'm not the monster they thought I was." "You were never a monster. You were just untrained." He moved closer, and Maya's wolf immediately pressed against her skin, yearning for his proximity. The pull between them had only grown stronger over the past few days. Every conversation, every training session, every moment of his patient instruction building something that felt nothing like compulsion and everything like genuine connection. "Alexander," she hesitated, unsure how to articulate what she was feeling. "Yes? When you said your wolf recognized me, did you mean—" She broke off, the question too large to voice. He reached out, cupping her face with a gentleness that contradicted the violence he was capable of. "I meant that you're my mate, Maya. The moon goddess herself couldn't have crafted a more perfect match. I've known it since the moment I saw you, but I wanted to give you time to feel it too. Time to trust me." "I do trust you," she whispered, startled by how true it was. "You've been kind and patient, and you haven't treated me like a weapon or a curse. You've treated me like someone precious. Because you are." His thumb brushed across her cheekbone. "A lunar wolf who's also my fated mate. The moon goddess has a sense of humor." Maya's breath hitched as his words sank in. Fated mate. Not just attraction or compulsion, but genuine destiny. "How do you know? How can you be certain?" "Because being near you feels like coming home," he said simply. "Because my wolf goes quiet and content when you're close, and he's never quiet, Maya. Because I look at you and see forever, and it doesn't terrify me the way it should." Tears burned in her eyes. 3 days ago, she'd been locked in a tower, convinced she'd die before dawn. Now she was standing in the Alpha King's arms, being told she was his mate. "This is crazy. Completely." He smiled, and it transformed his harsh features into something almost boyish. "But I've never been more certain of anything. You're mine, Maya. If you'll have me." She should have said no. Should have demanded more time, more proof, more certainty. But her wolf was singing with recognition, and her heart knew what her mind was still trying to process. This male, this powerful, patient, protective male, was hers. Had been from the moment their eyes met. "Yes," she breathed. "Yes, I'll have you." Alexander kissed her then, and the bond between them ignited like lightning. Maya felt it snap into place, a golden thread connecting her soul to his, pulsing with power and promise, and the kind of love she'd never dared dream of finding. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, she could see her wolf reflected in his eyes, white and radiant, and finally free. "My Luna," Alexander murmured against her lips. "My lunar wolf. Mine." "Yours," Maya agreed, and the word felt like victory, like claiming her power instead of hiding from it, like finally stepping into the destiny she'd been running from her whole life. Behind them, she heard applause. Maya turned to find the training grounds filled with wolves, Alexander's pack, gathered to witness the bonding of their alpha king to his fated mate. They weren't looking at her with fear or compulsion. They were looking at her with acceptance, with joy. "How long have they been watching?" she asked, feeling heat rise in her cheeks. "Since the beginning of the session." Alexander wrapped an arm around her waist, pulling her against his side with possessive satisfaction. "I wanted them to see what you could do. Wanted them to understand that you're not a threat. You're their Luna." "I don't know how to be a Luna," Maya admitted. "You'll learn. Just like you learn to fight. Just like you learn to trust." He turned her to face the gathered pack. "And you won't do it alone." Elder Gregor, Alexander's head counselor, stepped forward with a small velvet box. "It is my honor to present the Luna's crown," he said formally, opening the box to reveal a delicate circlet of silver set with moonstones that seemed to glow with inner light. Maya's breath caught. That's beautiful. It was my mother's, Alexander said quietly. And her mother's before that. Every Luna of the Capital Pack has worn it. Now it's yours. He lifted the circlet from the box and placed it carefully on Maya's head. The moonstones warmed against her skin, and she felt a surge of power. Not compulsion, but connection. Every wolf in the gathered pack, their presence humming at the edges of her awareness. All hail Luna Maya, Elder Gregor called, lunar wolf of the Capital Pack and fated mate to our Alpha King. The pack howled in unison, the sound echoing across the training grounds and into the forest beyond. Maya felt tears stream down her face, but these were tears of joy, of belonging, of finally finding the place where she fit. Thank you, she whispered to Alexander. For what? For breaking down the door. For refusing to let them hide me away. For seeing what I could be instead of what they feared I was. Alexander pulled her close, burying his face in her hair. You saved yourself, Maya. I just gave you space to do it. But they both knew that wasn't entirely true. He'd fought for her, protected her, given her the time and safety to discover her own strength. And now, standing in the center of her new pack with her mate's arms around her and her wolf finally at peace, Maya understood something fundamental. She wasn't a curse or a weapon or a monster. She was exactly what the moon goddess had intended, a lunar wolf, powerful and free, with an alpha king strong enough to stand beside her without trying to dim her light. And she was home. The celebration that followed lasted until dawn. Wolves from neighboring packs arrived to pay their respects to the new Luna, bringing gifts and pledges of loyalty. Maya's father appeared near midnight, carrying the bag of belongings she'd been forced to leave behind. When she saw him, she pulled away from Alexander's side and ran to him. Papa, she breathed, throwing her arms around him. Marcus held her tight, his shoulders shaking. I'm so sorry, he whispered. I should have protected you. Should have stood up to the elders. Should have... You did protect me, Maya interrupted. You kept my secret as long as you could. And when you couldn't anymore, you made sure I ended up somewhere safe. She pulled back to look at him. I'm not angry, Papa. I'm grateful. You're happy here? His eyes searched her face. Truly? Truly. She glanced back at Alexander, who was watching them with patient understanding. I found my mate, Papa. My fated mate. And I found a pack that doesn't fear what I am. Marcus followed her gaze and seemed to really see Alexander for the first time, not as the terrifying Alpha King, but as the male who loved his daughter. Take care of her, he said, his voice carrying easily across the distance. She's stronger than she knows, but she's also been hurt. Be worthy of her. Every day of my life, Alexander promised. You have my word. Maya hugged her father again, then returned to Alexander's side. He laced his fingers through hers, and the bond between them pulsed warm and steady. Around them, the party continued. Wolves dancing and laughing and celebrating their new Luna. But Maya barely noticed. She was too focused on the male beside her, the one whose presence made her wolf purr with contentment. The one who'd broken down the door of her prison, literal and metaphorical, and shown her what freedom felt like. What are you thinking? Alexander murmured, pulling her close. That 3 days ago I thought I was going to die. And now I'm standing here as Luna of the most powerful pack in the territory, bonded to a mate who makes me feel like I could take on the world. You could, he said seriously. You're a lunar wolf, Maya. There's nothing you can't do. Nothing we can't do, she corrected, rising on her toes to kiss him. Together. Together, he agreed against her lips. Always. And as the moon rose full and bright above them, Bathing the celebration in silver light, Maya felt her wolf howl with pure joy. She'd been locked away during the mating ceremony, hidden and afraid, convinced her difference made her unworthy of love. But the Alpha King had broken down the door, and in doing so, he'd set her free. Did you like the story? Do you want part 2? Let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to the channel for more alpha werewolf romance stories. Hit that notification bell so you never miss when the Alpha King claims his Luna. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next story.